Hello everybody and welcome back to another tutorial. Long time no see, long time no hear, but I'm back. And I come to you today with a video about how I personally go about drawing in Moho. Because I think the simple act of how we draw in Moho most efficiently and it may be also in a way that's kind of fun, it's not always clear to every beginner. I won't say that I have all the answers, but I at least think I have a sort of an approach that would maybe be beneficial for people to see. So as usual, my videos, they are not like the end all be all. It's just basically my way of go about things. So why is it sometimes confusing to draw in Moho? Well, it's really all a little bit about the mindset, because of course, if you come from any other art software, you go into Moho and you expect it to work like you are used from your former software or even like on a piece of paper. Now it's only natural for all of us to being used to, drawing on paper, drawing, the software to draw lines first and fills second. That's just how we were brought up. That's how we have been doing it for hundreds of years. Now here is where Moho becomes a little bit special, because here in Moho we actually draw in shapes. So the analogy would be, rather than with pen and paper, with a marker and with some filling colors or paint brushes or whatever, we actually draw with paper cutouts. We cut out our shapes and build our figures or our characters that way. So this sounds pretty confusing and also kind of counterintuitive, and a lot of people they're kind of freak out over this. But I will try to show you maybe some pointers and how to think about it that will hopefully make it a little bit easier for you. And maybe you will even find that actually in some cases it even has some advantages over drawing the traditional way, so to speak. The whole thing is, and that's kind of, if you take anything away from this video, it's really about, as anything in life, unfortunately, it's about practice, People that got pretty fast at Moho, drawing in Moho, are usually the ones who just did it a lot and, didn't give up so easily. Not saying you are, and that's why you are here, because you don't want to give up, because you want to get better at it. So I will get back to this in the end, but just let me preface this by saying, the whole idea of what I'm going to show you is basically we're just going to draw. We're just going to concentrate on making a nice drawing, making it more or less fun, making it in a way that doesn't fry your brain, and then it's up to you to maybe just force, quote unquote, yourself to use Moho for your daily drawing practice or your daily doodling for like a week or something, Instead of opening Photoshop or Clip Studio, Procreate or any other great, nice drawing app, if you are doodling, try maybe opening Moho and do it in there. And that's usually that's basically what I did when I realized, I'm actually pretty bad at drawing in Moho. And that really improved stuff immensely. So the other nice thing about it all is, it's actually pretty amazing how many people are simply drawing with a mouse in Moho. So if you are not one of those people who have a fancy, huge Cintiq 56-inch drawing display or something like that, you can use a simple mouse. Personally, I used to work with big, drawing displays, 22 inches and up. But I recently sold my last one that I had, actually, and for Moho I'm now completely on a plain Intuos Pro large, which is perfect for me. I find it a perfect input device for Moho, because Moho is always like kind of this in-between thing between a 3D software and a drawing tool. You do a lot of rigging and then you do occasional drawing, at least in my case. So I really like that. But use whatever you have. Don't worry about if you don't have a fancy drawing display or anything like that. You can get around Moho with a mouse even. So first things first. The goal is, of course, for today is simply, it's not about rigging, it's not even about drawing something for a rig, it's just simply to get drawing in Moho. And as with any software, I would say the best way to start a drawing is maybe by sketching something. So how do we go about that? I think it's a good first step to really take your time and set up a sketching brush that you are comfortable with, that is fun for you, that is nice for you to draw with. And I'm going to show you 3 approaches for possible brushes that you can either, take over one-on-one, or maybe take some inspiration from and come up with your own. When we look at sketching brushes for animation, I observe 3 different ways by animators. First way, usually the people who came from Flash or come from any other vector animation software, or basically people who just don't need anything else. It's just, nothing fancy, just the standard round hard brush. That's actually a really good thing to use from time to time, because it forces you to, be a bit economical about your lines and don't use too many, don't become too scribbly, like a lot of animators that I see who are using just a solid hard brush. They are really, with just a few lines, basically, they can get some really cool gestures going. So nothing wrong with that. If that's how you like to draw, then by all means, that's basically the easiest thing ever. You just take your freehand tool. Up here in the right hand corner, by the way, if you haven't noticed, you see all the key shortcuts that I ever press. But with F, of course, you come to the freehand tool. Again, I don't want to go too in depth about tools or anything like that in this video. I'm guessing this video will be mostly watched by people who are already somewhat familiar with Moho, and there's also other videos that really go in depth about all these options here. But needless to say, if you want to adjust pen pressure for the width, you can just play around with this number here. But yeah, that's basically how you get your Flash standard hard round brush. Exactly. So let's just... I noticed that in most of my tutorials I don't ever do nice drawings. I really do very sloppy bad drawings. So I told myself this will be the first tutorial ever where I will attempt to actually make somewhat nice drawings. But let's just put this guy here. And this is our brush number 1. And we just call this the solid round brush. Okay. Now, let me turn your attention to over here in the styles palette. You see I have my own little palette here. It's called Joel Ruffs. And this is literally the palette I take into every art and animation software I have. This is just always my collection of rough colors. It's kind of geeky, but I kind of created them after the set of Prismacolor Colorase pencils, colored pencils that I have. And Colorase, for those of you who don't know, that's kind of the color pencil of choice for a lot of traditional animators. So I kind of wasted my time recreating them. Except these 3 down here. This one is actually kind of nice because it's a sort of a it's sort of between a gray and a little bit of a purple, but it kind of really feels almost a bit like a pencil, and I really kind of like this color as well to draw with. So if you like drawing with colors, you can always set up a little PNG for yourself and load this as a palette. And these down here, this weird green bluish one and this kind of off red one, these are kind of special because these colors, they come from a book by Adam Phillips about Toon Boom, believe it or not. But for those of you who don't know who Adam Phillips is the creator of Brackenwood, of Bitey, of all these great old Newgrounds cartoons. So he's basically a legend of online animation. For all of you older millennials like me, you will definitely remember that. And that's, to this day, I think he uses these colors as rough colors. But the only special thing he does, and that brings me to the second sort of sketching pencil, is he takes that color and he turns down the alpha to about, I guess 15. Oops. And let's go into this. Yeah, 15 is probably a bit too low. It's probably about 25 or something like that. Yeah. So you see, I have his color now, and I just turned down the alpha to about 25%. And that way, I now have a little bit like a fake pencil feel to it. Maybe I can go around. I wrote down the exact number. I had to convert the numbers from Toon Boom to Moho, and I really was that geeky and wrote that down somewhere. But it's about this, you know. And the nice thing is, if you're somebody who prefers to like sculpt your drawings, basically, you know, who needs just a bit more of construction phase, who just prefers to have it a little bit softer and not so definitive, like the solid brush here, this is actually a kind of a nice choice, and both of these colors work really nicely for that. So let's try to, and these are the colors that Adam Phillips uses. If you want to know, I can put the maybe I can put this PNG somewhere. If you're interested in that, let me know in the comments. But honestly, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't need to be these exact colors. It's just a fun trivia that I thought I'd let you know. But this is basically the second sort of sketching brush, a very easy one, very light on CPU as well. This is the I call it Adam. Oh dear, I think he's 2 L's and 1 P. Adam Phillips Alpha Solid, because it's just a solid brush with an alpha brush, something like that. All right, and now let's go to the most advanced version of a sketching brush, and that's obviously Moho has great textured brushes, and what I usually do is this one. I go here to style 1 and take one of the pre-made ones, and the one which I take is usually the dry pencil one. Let's take the dry pencil one, maybe like a nice blue. Okay, and you see it's not a very great brush out of the box. It's a bit, it's a bit very, I mean, it's very dry, let's put it like that. So what I usually do is I go into styles up here and actually edit the dry pencil itself. So now I'm editing the actual style of the dry pencil. I go here to the brush settings, and then I put the spacing down to about just somewhere where, you know, where you feel like, okay, that gives you enough density, but also not completely crazy, so you kind of, you know, are gentle with the CPU. But let's say around, I think about 19%. Yes, and now it's a really nice, now you can really just you know, exit here from editing the style to the drop down styles drop down, just select none, and now put it in your style 1 slot, dry pencil, and you can see now you have quite a nice. I quite like this. It's like a really soft colored pencil, basically. Yeah, let me draw this guy again. So, and you see with this one you can really get a nice. If you're a traditionalist, so to speak, and you really want to have this nice tactile feeling of a real pencil, then that's an easy one I can recommend. You know, you could also really, if you're like me and you prefer it, that dry pencil to have this a bit more density, like I'm doing right now, then you can. Then you could also edit the style basically and replace it in the Moho preference folder, so you always have this version when you start up. When you start the software up each time. But I'm not going over that now. But if you're interested in that, then just, you know, read the manual or ask in the Discord. We can help you out. But that's just the dry pencil. There we go. So these are like three sketching brushes that I could recommend for you, maybe to try out, something. All right. So, because I think that's actually quite important, that you have something that you are comfortable with drawing. And yeah, that's just three possibilities to get you started. All right, so first step is done. We have a nice, good sketch brush. That brings us to the second step, which is, of course, making a rough sketch. I've been thinking, actually, the thing that the thing I was thinking about the most before making this video is what I should actually draw, and I thought I keep it kind of current, and I think there's another Super Mario movie that's coming up, and I mean, I haven't even seen the last Super Mario Bros. Movie I've ever seen was the one with Bob Hoskins, so that shows you how current I am. But still, I thought I will attempt to draw Super Mario. I will probably do quite a few, little. What I usually like to do is I find every drawing problem usually can be solved by just drawing very small, and then taking it and blowing stuff up. So that's also, by the way, a nice way to animate if you just do thumbnails first of your whole sequence, and then in the end you take it and you blow it up. And again, Moho is vector, so you never have a problem with that. It's much easier to get going, but that's another video. Anyways, I will put this into time lapse and will try to come up with a nice sketch. I hope I won't make too much of a fool out of myself. I have to tell you very, very honestly, I haven't drawn in Moho in a while, so if you see some screw-ups even in the time-lapse, please forgive me. But okay, the goal is make a cool Super Mario drawing, and we will get going right now, and I will be back in a second. All right, so as you maybe now is as good a time of any to mention that I never looked at any reference, which I probably should have had, but it's okay for demonstration purposes. I think it's okay. As you can see, just now I'm just playing around with proportions, which is kind of one cool thing about Moho that is super easy to do. You can just press T, go into the transform points tool and hold down option, I guess, option or what is that, option or alt? Is it alt? I unfortunately don't know what it is on a PC, but it's either alt or control probably. And the thing is, if I now just select a couple of the points, of the head, and with any luck, if I press tab, it selects me all the connected points of that. The weird thing about Moho is it's a little bit like, drawing with chewing gum, really, because if I take these parts, for example, I can, could really easily, elongate Mario and all these kind of things. But it makes it really easy to, like, if you feel like his head is too big, for example, what I do is I just take the transform points tool, go in, see to it that I more or less have a couple of points of every part of his head, press tab, and you see I already grabbed the whole thing, and I can make it a little bit bigger. Oh, there we are. Now his head is quite a bit bigger, but I think I cannot really save his proportion. Well, maybe I could try to take this and move it a little bit up. Well, yeah, a little bit better. So really all I used was, the stuff you already know, the freehand tool, the transform points tool, and of course our good old friend, the magnet tool, which I can get by pressing X and by holding down option or alt. That's probably alt. Option or alt. I can and clicking and dragging. I can enlarge or shrink the selection area. And what I usually do is I set it on selected points only, because that means if I now, for example, just want to play around with his head, I again hold down Command or Control, lasso select all the points I want, press tab so I have the whole head, and now I can, you know, whatever I do, it will only affect the selected points of the magnet thing. So I think that's much better. Definitely an improvement. Okay, but let's move on. So this is our rough sketch. So step 3 is now we come to the actual, so to speak, final line part. And we start with thinking about the big shapes. There's this really great book by Michael Matisi, maybe you know it, is pretty famous actually, and it's called Force Dynamic Life Drawing for Animators. And it's really a book about life drawing, specifically for animators, but I remember he had a chart in there, like a triangle, and his teaching basically was, you know, you draw from the general to the specific. So you really start with the big ideas, the big shapes, and you get more and more specific. Instead of trying to start with the nostril or something like that, you really go from the big shapes like the hips and the torso. You know, how do they relate to each other, and then you go more and more in depth and detailed. Now, that's obviously not like a complete amazing new revelation, but it's still something to keep in mind, you know, when we go about drawing in Moho. Because for this step, honestly, I would say let's stick to 2 tools. One is the Add Points tool, which you certainly know over here, and the other one is the Draw Shapes tool, which is the one over here. So we can work with primitives and we can work with points. That's really all we're gonna do for now. We're gonna save ourselves the freehand tool for later. And also, what I would recommend, so you don't make it too complicated for yourself. For this step, for now, keep it to black and white. You know, forget about color for right now. It's almost like you're doing a clean line pass right now. You know, like an inking pass. So it's just black and white. Exactly. Okay, let's. Now, again, for demonstration purposes, let's maybe focus on Mario here. That might seem like a bit of a cop-out, and honestly it is, because now otherwise the tutorial will just be too long. But I would really like to just clean up Mario here now with nothing but the Add Point tool and the Primitive Shapes tool. The thing is, I think really about 2 things. I think about the shapes. So, for example, I see this head, and instead of thinking about the outlines, basically, I already think about, okay, what is this head made of? For example, I think this could be a good shape here. And I think in enclosed shapes, like in the example I brought to you, like with the paper cutout, you know, this is maybe a shape. Okay, the moustache we can put into one for sure. We have 2 eyes. Oh, right. Okay, I can use the primitive shapes for that. The hat, that will be tricky because it goes in front as well to the back, although it's not really. It's just an illusion. So I can probably do this and this for the hat. Then I put the ear on top. That's just a simple circle, a little bit adjusted. And that's that. And that's basically all that we think about now. I don't think about, for example, I don't think about right now, how am I going to do these folds here and stuff like that. That would be more critical if you do it now for rigging. But as I said, I really want this video to be just about drawing. We don't want to animate this guy. We just want to make a nice drawing out of him, you know. So I just think about, okay, this could be a shape of the arm. The hand is relatively simple. I'm just going to make an outline shape here. Same here, etc., etc. You know, actually, you see here already I got because it's always so tempting to think about, okay, this only exists up to here because here's another outline. But the thing is really what we're also doing, and that brings me to the second point to think about. You're not only thinking about the shape of the shape, so to speak, you also think a little bit about the stacking of the shape. And that's what makes it tricky, you know, because if you look about here, so we have the front part of his hat, which is in front of the back part of his hat, which is in front of the eyes, which are in front of the nose, which is in front of the moustache, and then it is in front of the that's supposed to be the general head shape. I hope it makes sense what I'm trying to explain here. What I'm trying to say is I'm thinking about the stacking of the shape as well as the form of the shape. But this is basically like layers, you know. But it's not the end of the world if you don't get this right from the get-go. It's not like you only have one try, because what you basically do is, if let's say let's draw with an autofill for now. Let's say I do the nose first, and then I do the outline of the head, and then I'm like, oh dear, now the nose is behind, but I want it in front. Luckily, Moho makes it pretty easy. You just press Q, and please learn a couple of these keyboard shortcuts, because it will also speed you up like crazy. And that's another reason why I love drawing with the Intuos here, because I can easily have my one hand on the keyboard, the other and the other hand on the tablet. So Moho is a little bit keyboard heavy, keyboard shortcut heavy. But anyways, select shape tools with Q. I select the nose. I press the up arrow on the keyboard, and now it's on front. So that's super easy to rearrange. Now, this all might seem like a little bit, discouraging and kind of like a super big mental hurdle. But I think one thing that will already help you is try to not think about color right now. For now, try to just think about the shapes. Anyways, enough talk. Let's put it into practice. And let's say I look now for the biggest shape. I have either I take his head or I take his body. I would say let's take his body, which I can probably do in one piece. By the way, also, I will do this all on one layer. I won't use multiple layers because I don't want to use this character for animation. I just want to make a drawing. So that's also something that's going to help. Okay, let's go to the Add Points tool, Autofill, Auto Stroke. I usually keep Béziers turned off until I need them, so to speak. But I show you how I go about it. So let's start here. Add a point, add a point, add a point. Again, I'm pretty easy, you see. And zack, and done. Okay, okay, good. We can forget about that one. Also, we can put our cleanup layer underneath our pencil layer, and just turn down the opacity so we always see the pencil stuff. Okay, the sketch rather. Okay, next one. What do I want to do next? I think the leg would be in order. So I ignore this fold. I just want to have a general shape of it. Here I know it's going to be a sharp corner, so I hold down Command or Alt, or Command or Alt or Control. Up here it says so. Okay, Control or Command to get a sharp corner. Okay, and here it can be curved again. And here it's going to be sharp again, so I hold down Command or Control and let go of it again. You see, as soon as I usually keep it to curvy, and then as soon as I press Command and make a point, it does it pointy. So that's also a good way to, get about quickly. Click on it once and continue. And again, only important thing is that it's in a closed shape. Now, here, because I continued from here, it didn't take the sharp corner for me. So I just always press C, and that's the curve tool. And then I just quickly go in and click and drag. Okay, and now H, and I'm going to hide this stuff. Maybe put this here, maybe put this here. W for width. And there we go. There we go. You see? Easy. I think a lot of what will speed you up a lot is, I mean, it really sounds so banal, but I think really what will also speed you up a lot is simply working with keyboard shortcuts. I mean, it sounds so simple. And it's like learning an instrument, you will get faster at it with time. Okay, anyways, let's continue with the shoe. I think I will, there's a shoe and there's a sole underneath, but I think I will just combine it, because the shape more or less stays the same. So let me just go here. Again, simplify things down. The detail comes later. So you see now here already, this shoe should obviously be in the background. So I just select it and press Shift and down. And Shift and down just puts it on the bottom shape layer, so to speak. So now it's on this shape is on the very bottom. But you see it already kind of looks nice. You know, Moho actually is kind of cool to clean up stuff in this regard. If you are after clean lines. Okay, let's see. What could we do next? Like basically the inside for now I wanna leave be, you know. Right now I'm really just focused on stuff that informs the silhouette, so to speak. All the inside things that will come later. So let's do the arm, for example. Tuck, 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 tuck. Great. Okay, I see. We can maybe we need one here. No, and it's really, the thing is, it is really, if you ever if you do the 3D modeling, then this will kind of feel weirdly familiar to you. I'm not really a 3D artist, but I did 3D stuff in the past, enough of it at least, so I know how it works. And Moho really is a little bit like 3D modeling on a 2D plane. All right, let's go on. And really, that's the thing I want to hammer home. You don't think about lines, the lines that you see, you think about the shapes. So let's think about the shape of this hand, really what defines it. And it's a good practice in general, by the way, because I mean, I'm really into shapey things, which is probably why I like doing cutout animation these days. So like, I'm really, big fan of mid-century animation, UPA and Zagreb films and all these kind of things, which are very shape and design heavy. So for me, that's always a great practice to kind of simplify things and to get to the essence of a drawing. All right, there we are. Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, and now let's do the back leg. Why not? Again, don't get confused by folds or anything. We just want the outline. We just want the silhouette. Oh, there we go. Then get this nice and tidy. And you see, it doesn't take many points usually, especially now that we don't really have to worry too much about, how it will deform. And that's what makes it fun, really, because right now we're really just drawing. We're just drawing. It's not about animating. It's not about rigging. It's not about anything. It's just about making a cool drawing. And we just happen to use Moho. And you see, it's also no big deal if you don't get the order of the shape right from the beginning. So don't worry about that too much. Nobody gets that right from the start. So there we go. Okay, you see that shoe? And that's the cool thing. The cool thing about Moho is, if I can maybe for once advocate, why for cleanup stuff is this actually a cool way to draw? I tell you why. Because what you usually see, let's go to this guy. By the way, command or control right click lets you turn the canvas. What I see a lot in traditional cleanup these days is this. You see, stroke, command C, stroke, command C, stroke, command C, until you have the right stroke. And that to me seems just like, I'm far too lazy for that. How about just doing this? Okay, great, yeah, fantastic. And there's the freaking eye, So, and the fill, by the way, is already done as well, so we don't have a separate fill pass. Just saying, I'm not obviously the other one feels more artistic, but being able to just lay down a couple of lines, that don't even have to be perfect. You can be pretty rough with these vector points as well. And then go in and just quickly sculpt the stuff out. It just feels to me it's like a bit more of a maybe I'm wrong, but I just feel it's a somewhat more productive or efficient way of working instead of stroke, Command Z, stroke, Command Z, because no traditional cleanup artist probably did stroke and erase, stroke, erase for like 50 times until he finally got the line. All right, but enough of that side note. Let's continue. And while we're at it, another thing you can of course do, because I notice right now this shoe, it's not the same size as this one. This one seems shorter, but let's just, delete that and be lazy, copy paste and move it over here. There we go, more or less about that. And since I already have it selected, I can go to X, take my sculpt tool and just, adjust the curvature a little bit so it doesn't bend so much. Then Q, Shift, back, and it's done. Okay, also let's continue. Let's do this second arm. All right, seems good to me. Let's C for curve. You see, I like also to break up the steps, instead of worrying too. I mean, I worry about the curvature insofar that I just, if I know it's going to be a really sharp corner, then I just press down C, not C, I'm sorry, Control or Command. But I also don't stress too much about it if I forget about it, because I know I can adjust it afterwards. So it's like laying down points, getting the shape down, going in with the curvature tool, with the transform points tool, with the magnet tool, and getting it perfect. That's all. It's really not a big deal. What I would do here, because I just feel the fingers, they are separate enough that they warrant their own shape. But you see, that's in the eye of the beholder. But what I would do here is, okay, let's do the general palm shape, which is under here, and then S for shapes, and let's do one here, S, let's do one here, S, let's do one here. And you see I got it the wrong way around, but no problem, because we have our little Q, and just press twice, and then I can take this one, copy paste, Q, press a couple of times until I'm down. There we go. And now let's just shape it out nicely so it doesn't look like a couple of elongated circles, which is what it is, but we obviously want it to be a bit more organic. And the only thing we have to be careful now is that obviously probably theoretically there is a to really sell it, I think, okay, let's do it like this. There is because it's a bent thumb basically, it should maybe be more like this, and H for height points, something like this, something like this. Okay, we're getting along, so let's continue with his head, and I think I will just, as a starter, take something like that. This is basically really just the base of his head, and the jaw, the nose, everything else. Let's add the nose. Let's not worry about, and we can hide. Don't have to worry about that nostril yet. Again, that's like inside. What we can do is Command, because here is a command, here's another peak, Command, and there's the mustache. So there we go. If we wanted to, you can adjust, if you want to, you can adjust the line widths already. You can also do that later, but since I kind of know what the end result will be. Now you can add maybe since this kind of influences the silhouette of his head, I will just add something like this for now. And this is basically his lower jaw. Yeah, and I will hide the lines here. Oops. Now it's also important to say there's multiple ways of going about this. Everybody will do it a little bit differently. So I'm really just giving you a starting off point hopefully that is somewhat useful to you. If you feel like you want to do the complete thing on this stage already, then look, go ahead. I just think for to start, it's sometimes really easier to just break things down, you know. And right now we're just concentrating on getting his silhouette, his shapes, his big shapes, right, his big ideas. So I'm really not worrying about anything on the inside, basically. Okay, now we're getting close. If we want, we can add. The eyes, like the basic shape of the eyes here. Just always, when you use primitives, just make sure that it's not like perfect circles, or unless that's the style you're going for. But you know, I always make sure that I kind of, peak them a little bit at certain corners and stuff like that, so it's not just a perfect circle. Okay, so almost there. Just the hat. Aha, and here we have to shuffle our shapes around a bit, but that's actually already it, so that's fine. And then we have the, I don't know what this is called in English, just this front part here. Oops. So just make the shape nice. And if you feel like, you know, don't just trace, also really think about what you're doing, because as in traditional, sometimes you have to fix things that are a bit wonky in your shape. Another good, and to maybe control that, or like keep an eye on that. Another shortcut I can recommend is Shift F. F like Ferdinand. I don't know. I wanted to say something different, but I won't say that. But Shift F basically flips your canvas, and that's also always useful. I like that Moho added that. Okay, and now let's just add a couple of hair strands. If you want, you can just do one. Shift down, copy paste, and do a second one, or maybe that's okay. It's okay to cheat like that, because again, it's about you learning how to draw specifically with this tool, and that is something pretty common, that you're gonna do. Okay, I'm not sure if that's gonna look very good, but we will keep it for now. But I think I'll call this stage done. So let's turn. Oh no, I'm sorry, I forgot. I forgot his mushroom. The mushroom, I think, is simple enough. We can just make one shape out of him. So like that. I press Control here, so I get a nice. Could have done it there too. Well, okay. Let's maybe here I want to straighten it, and here I want to straighten it, and then just put it all the way down. All right. So now it looks nice. Okay, let's turn off the sketch, and you see, this is what we have. Basically, almost like a pencil, an inking pass, a first inking pass, and it's always good to look at it again in this stage, in this view, because then you see probably a few little things that you can correct, but I think other than that, it's good enough for now. Okay, now let's call it done for now, and let's go back to the presentation. All right, we kept it to black and white. We did our first pass and everything. So now it's on to step 4, and step 4 is the details and is the colors. And here it's really about going in and adding the details to our rough outline ink drawing that we have right now. So here is now the point where you can use your freehand tool. For now, we still keep it to black and white, But now we can basically look at the insides and add these to the character. Now it doesn't have to be all done with the freehand tool, but some things, since this is a character that I won't be animating, I just use the auto stroke, and for example for something like this, I just add it like that. You see? Now you just have to make sure that you more or less have the same. Let me just reset that. And usually at this stage I set the smoothing pretty high so I get a nice clean line. And again, don't fall into the trap of starting to do Command Z stroke, because we are in Moho here, which means that if you drew a line, let me draw this one. If you drew a line and you don't like it 100%, just, you know, go to T for transform points and C for curvature and adjust it to your liking. See, maybe look at the Bezier. There we go. Okay, good enough. Good enough. There we go. And this way you can, if you need something like a fill, like here for the pupils, I mean, I could go in and again do it with the primitive shapes, but for now, for demonstration purposes, let's turn on autofill. And let's do the fill on black as well. 1, 2. There we go. Same for his mouth. I think I'm going to do it like this. And if you're getting into trouble because there's too many points on top of other points, just select the shape that you want to edit and use the magnet tool, you know, and set it to selected points only, so you only, you know, edit the points. So with this thing, now it's gonna get interesting, because what we have here is we have a mouth shape and we have a tongue inside. So you could go in, if you wanted to, draw a shape with the fill on white, and, you know, try to more or less, you know, match it properly so it sticks inside this black hole of the mouth. What you could do too, which is probably a good exercise, is use Moho's liquid shapes and abuse them basically as a mask. So let me demonstrate. Let me just draw a tongue here. And now I want this tongue to be masked by the mouth shape. So pardon me if I don't tell you anything new, but I think that's also a good way to go about to quickly mask things off. So I have my tongue. I use the up and down arrow to rearrange them. And now I make sure, just when I press down and I'm below this black mouth shape, I press up again, so I'm sure I'm exactly over on top of this mouth shape. And then I go here and I use clip. Ta-da! And you see, now this shape will be clipped by the black mouth shape. So that's an easy way to, you know, quickly get things like that done. And now you can, of course, still, you know, adjust it and do whatever you like to it. Something like that. Maybe. And you know, that's the cool thing, you can basically move elements of your drawing however you like. Here I think, because I want the cheek to be in front of the eye, I think I will draw it as a shape actually. So let me just do this. And you see, since I had autofill on, it created a fill for me. And there we go. Now we have the cheek. All right. What else? Let's concentrate on this little mushroom here. So here I just go F. I turn off autofill, and I basically just extend these lines into the interior lines, so to speak, of the whole mushroom thingy. So let me do one here, do one here. If you feel like it doesn't really connect nicely, just, you know, edit the line, W, there we go, there we go. Edit the line, W for the width, and then But you know what? Actually, you know what? We will probably get into trouble when we're trying to color this because it's not separate shapes. But I will show you an alternative way to color with this one. All right. Anyway, so now I'm just going to give him these typical Mario inanimate object eyes. If you feel like there's a mess with your points, don't worry, just delete them. And if you have something like this, but basically all you want is a straight line, just select the points, Command P or Control P like peak, and Command M like smooth, does the opposite and smooths them. So now we have a really nice, yeah, you see the freehand tool sometimes makes a bit of a mess of points. And adjust the width here. So there we go. Okay, here is our little mushroom. And you see, now we can do the same trick as before. I put it down, put it down, put it down, put it down until it's behind the mushroom. Then I put it up once and then put it on clip. All right, let's continue. Now he has some hair here. Again, can just do basically, you see, again, it's something I do. I want to be along this outline basically, but it doesn't really matter because the ear is a solid shape, so I can really just do this. And now down, 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 down. And here we are. Still, should connect nicely here. There we go. There we go. And now a little trick for folds. What I started doing with them is I take the freehand tool, I draw a shape, and I basically just do something like this. And it usually looks kind of neat. See? And you get a little fold going. You can adjust that however you like. There we go. And the same thing over here. In the original drawing, I seem to you can just do this or the other way, however you like it. There we go. And you see, by doing this silhouette first and then the inside second, you basically save yourself the headache of figuring out what goes where and what's in front of the other thing and so on. And for just practicing to draw, that's actually pretty nice. Okie dokie. Same thing here. We can just do this. Maybe I have to turn up the width a little bit again. 1 and 2. There we go. There we go. Autofill. All right, and now for these straps. Actually, what I'm going to do first is, let's say I'm guessing you would see a little bit of his neckline here, so I'm just going to draw something like this. Shift all the way down, up, 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 until it appears. There we are. And now we can draw the straps. One like this, and we put it behind the neckline, or in front, actually, it's better. Yeah, that's better. Okay, now that's fine. We put it like this, adjust the curvature so it makes sense. There we go. Same thing here. We can just make something like this. Until it's above the main body. There we go. And this will be This will then be the blue color. Same thing here. This would probably is his shirt blue? Yes, his shirt is blue, right? So this will basically be the the blue shirt piece of it. So that will be behind the neck, just one above the body until it becomes visible. Yeah, there we go. Great. And then we just need the second strap. So maybe I can cheat a little bit and copy paste it here, put it all the way to the back, and then it's one above the, yeah, above the shirt here. And then we can just resculpt it. And there we go. Same with the button. Can just one button. There we go. Amazing. And you see, we have a mess with points, but that's okay. Just use the sculpt tool with the selected points. All right. And now just take the freehand tool without any without any autofill, and just add, you know, a couple of strokes where appropriate. I think I turn this down again a bit, so like this. Oops. Maybe something like this. I think with this one we could maybe make it look a bit cooler if we H this out like that. Eyebrows. He needs eyebrows, and he needs a front hair here as well. So for this I need the autofill again. There we go. It looks a bit stupid. No, let's forget. I don't think he has hair out the front, right? So let's just do the eyebrows. One like this, copy paste, flippy floppy, and one like this. All right. Oh, his Mario. His Mario. That one we can of course do with a nice round thing like this, and then add point and maybe do sharp corners, because this for sure will be the sharp corners from the get-go. There we go. Probably looks a bit wonky. Let me zoom out. It's actually not too bad. Okay, let's call this done for now, because well, let me just put in some soles. I just won't make them any separate color, but just let's add a few strokes here. So there we go. All right, let's call it done. But you see, it kind of looks like a nice, more or less nice line drawing. And now the next thing we're gonna do, I'm gonna show you a really neat way to color this thing relatively quickly. Just go through it. You know, if you see any line widths you want to adjust or anything else, go ahead. And I'm going ahead and I'm going to look for a Mario reference picture that we can grab the colors from. So I will be right back. Just 1 second. All right, and we are back. All right, I was kind of shocked how far I really was from the original design, but that's all right. I just took the liberty to change his mustache a little bit and a couple of lines here and there, but really nothing big. So let me show you now how I would go about coloring this guy. So it's pretty easy actually. I just take the select shapes tool with Q, and let's say we want to grab a couple of things that we know will be red. So I grab his shirt, maybe parts of his hat. Doesn't have to be perfect. Doesn't matter if you don't get it perfect on the first try. Over here, this you probably know. We click and drag the eyedropper from the fill, and we put it on the red. All right, nice. So obviously I missed a few things, but here is actually the cool part. So let's say it gets kind of annoying with time, you know, to go over there and take the eyedropper and each time get the new things. So what you get the color again, and maybe you miss a spot or you don't get the exact red color you had before. So an easy trick you can do is, let's say we have this part that we see is white. Just press and hold Command or Control and click on any of the parts of your drawing that already has the right fill. And you see it automatically adapts that fill color. I could, for example, do that for the M as well. And done. And this way you can really fill the whole thing super quickly. So let me just take his... he is really pale. I think I have to... maybe this one. Yeah, okay. Let's, for sake of argument, just take this. Okay. Definitely missed a few spots. We want his hand, we want his fingers. Just hold down Shift and you can select as many shapes as you want. Hold down Command or Control, click on a part where there's already the right color, tack, and done. You see, so super easy. Missed a little spot there. So Command and colored. Almost as quickly as using a bucket fill. Okay, so the blue is something we didn't have before, so initially I have to take that from the picture, the brown for his hair. All right, this one is just black. Can do it like this. We take the tongue, which is super red. He looks a little bit like Mario from the original Donkey Kong. He looks like a Mario before Mario was popular and many different artists were drawing him for arcade cabinets and things like that. So I kind of like that, actually. Totally off-brand Mario. Maybe I'll make the mustache and these ones a little bit brighter, just so they, set themselves apart. Something weird happened here now. So here we have a little bit of a shape mix-up. Probably this was how I initially drew it, but sometimes, yeah, it was just the line was a little bit too thick for my taste. Okay, let's then do the shoes. I didn't do separate soles really, so let's just... I mean, you can go in if you like and do them. Okay, let's do it. No, let's do it properly. I want this should be educational and not me being lazy, which it usually is. So let's just... How I would do it is like this. You just make a little shape like this. I give it this color. And it seems I had it on sharp corners, so let's just round it out a little bit. And then you know the drill. Put it down, up, 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 until you are right above the shoe. Right above the shoe, right above the shoe. Oh, yeah, maybe select it first, that would be advantageous. So here we are right above the shoe, and we clip it, and there we go. And now let's do the same thing over here. No problem at all. Sharp corners to normal corners, so we get the rounded corners from the get-go. There we go. All right. Up, 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 up. There we are. Right above the shoe, and we clip it, and there we go. Now, proper shoes for him. Now here, because I cheated a little bit with the mushroom, the mushroom is one shape, which is a bit of a problem. Because now, of course, I can only give it one color, which is not what I want. But you know what? I'll take this opportunity to show you another way to color if you so please. You can also just use, with J, you can just use the blob brush. So let's just, I mean, that's really like doing a coloring book, which can be pretty zen if you like that. And you can just select draw behind strokes. Ta-da. And actually, you don't have to be so precious. You can just, draw all with that. That's totally fine. Ta-da. Hey, why is for some reason it didn't go behind the strokes, but that's fine. That's just Moho being Moho. And now we are using a brighter one because I think they're like, they are, I think that's their color, at least, I hope. But There we are. And you see, all you have to do, reorder the shapes. Ta-da! As if nothing ever happened. And here we have our fantastic Mario official new design approved by Nintendo. And best of all, drawn in Moho. And if we want to be a little bit fancy, maybe go here and take away the stroke. That looks a bit cooler. And let's just grab the whole thing and make him bigger, and so we can, you know, admire him in all his glory. So if you wanted to, I give you a little bit of a bonus tip. If you wanted to add some shading, for example, one really cheap and lazy way to do it would be to just group this, make a new layer above it, and then double click this new layer and put the blending on multiply, and then we're gonna select a really bright blue color, for example, and let's just, I mean, no, let's do it nicely. You can then use the shape tool and maybe do something like this, and then you can do masking, hide all, apply, and there we go. And obviously turn off the, looks kind of cool though, but turn off the stroke. But that's an easy and quick way to just, you know, draw some shadows. Can, you know, add with the blob brush as many as you want. You can, with the eraser, maybe, you know, get rid of some, you know, stuff like that. My Moho lags a little bit at the moment. I hope that's probably also because I'm recording, but I hope it won't crash on me, but it shouldn't. Alrighty, you know, stuff like that. Oh, maybe give this one a little bit. But that's totally up to you. Also, you know what I just noticed? I didn't color the buttons. Let's correct that mistake. I don't even, probably it was a color like this. There we go. Ta-da! And then if you want to be even fancier, you can make another vector layer, you know, and start doing, I don't know, maybe a highlight, or oops, maybe a, let's make this very small, maybe, you know, a highlight on his nose, a highlight on the mushroom. Now it really looks a little bit greasy, but stuff like that. So you know, the world's your oyster, so you can do really whatever you like. There we go. And it's also you know, beneficial to sometimes press Command R to really see it in render, because then you see the actual final lines that it will, you know, spit out as bitmaps, and you see you get quite good results. Alrighty, but for now, let me just take this guy back out of these effects layers, and let's keep him nice and simple. And let's go back to the presentation. So that was pretty easy and pretty cool, right? I mean, at least I think so. But hold on, I have a little bonus for you. And it's called, I call it the exploding character. And that's basically if you drew something nice, you know, and you went through all the trouble and you want to have some, you know, impress your friends or impress Twitter or impress Discord or whatever. I find that quite a cool technique to just, you know, show people how a character like this is built. And it's really simple. All I'm going to do is I'm going to go to frame 1, press Command F on the vector layer of your character, and then have a key all the points, and then maybe go to, I don't know, to frame 24, it doesn't really matter, and then just, you know, take a couple of shapes. You can go as granular as you like, and just pull Mario apart. And also press Command F just so you key everything. And you can even take these things apart. You can take the mushroom over here, and you can even you can even, you know, separate him more and more. You can take his hand. Oops. Come on. Put it over here. take individual fingers, just break him down into his shapes. There we go, as detailed or as broad as you like. If you like to show all the different shapes and strokes, then go ahead, knock yourself out. You see, you can even put the fold here and put the hat over here. And you can obviously do this far more far nicer than I mean right now. I'm just doing it quickly, just to prove the point. And the eyebrow number 1 over here, eyebrow number 2 over here, eyes, eye 1 here, eye 2 here, pupils up here, head down here. But it's kind of fun, you know, to see how a character is made up of these shapes, and I find it a good exercise because it just shows you again, you know, how it's all an illusion and how to again think about these things within Moho. And also it just makes for a cool little animation in the end with a pretty low effort. Anyways, you get the point. And now you can scrub. Woo! You see? And you can, you know, maybe export that as a GIF and post it to your socials. And, you know, I always find it gives a pretty cool effect when you see how the whole thing is made up. Yeah, there we go. All right. So much for that. Listen, let me just part with this. If you have the time and if you want to, and if it's a goal of you to get better at drawing within Moho, give yourself 1 week. If you're somebody like me who you know, sketches and doodles obsessively anyways, and you usually sit down at your computer and you open up Clip Studio, Photoshop, Sketchbook Pro, the Procreate, whatever it is, any of these apps, from now on for 1 week, instead of drawing within these apps in your comfort zone, try opening up Moho and just start sketching in there, you know, sketch in there, start cleaning it up, color it, and see what happens. Because that's the best way to get faster at it. And then, of course, the next step would be start breaking, you know, things more apart. Start breaking legs into their own layers, legs into 2 parts, and start thinking about, okay, I know how to get good results with drawing with shapes. How do I now separate these things so they work best for a rig, for example? If you have anything that you would like me to clarify, or maybe do a second part or another video that you would like to see from me, let me know. I hope this was helpful. Yeah, see you next time. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.